Welcome to the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships here in the Lebanon Sports Complex in Ohio. It is the men's division. Japan team Heat Haze taking on Warao Ultimate Club from Venezuela. And the heat is definitely sweltering here at 5 p.m. in the state of Ohio. This is Liam Grant joined by Gigi Morrison, player commentator playing with Reading at this tournament. How's your weekend gone so far? Or should I say week?
Well, the week so far has been pretty solid. We've won all of our games, and it's been incredible. We have had some struggles in the heat, as expected. And it will be interesting to see how these two teams, both from, Venezuela and Japan, how they're going to fare in the heat as well. They might have similar conditions back at home, but let's see.
Yeah, a lot of the Venezuelans not living in Venezuela at the moment with the economic crisis there, but we're not going to talk too much about that. We asked them before what they'd like us to say, and they said just focus on the positives. We're just delighted to be here. Everyone's happy and celebrating Venezuela and its culture, so I'm delighted to have the players here. So Gigi, you've won all your games.
Yep, I'm playing for Reading Ultimate, and we've played 4 games, I think. I've lost track, to be perfectly honest. But this sits us, I think, fairly comfortably at second in our pool. We've got wildcard tomorrow, and that's going to be a really, really tough game, but we're so excited.
Yeah, you guys seem to have unlocked the Get Wrecked Ultimate team. This is your second win against them this season. So what's the secret to beating that Dutch side?
We just seem to play well against European teams, and we chump it to a certain extent against non-European teams. We know it very, very well. We know how they play. We're very friendly with them, and the spirit is always great. It's such a fun game.
Now looking at this Japanese team, Haze finished second at Japanese Nationals in 2017, but only 6th this year. Quite a few Samurai players picking up them. There always seem to be a mixed bag of nuts, the Japanese teams. A community maybe not as well traveled as a lot of Europe and USA team tend to mix each other up a lot. You know who's there, but Japan kind of closed off, so you never know what you're going to get. But they've had some great victories so far in this pool. 15-12 over Ragnarok, 15-9 against Ordebro, and their only loss coming to Goat, losing 15-7. So they've already shown that they're a force to be reckoned with. Any experience watching Japanese teams play?
I've seen the Japanese national teams play, both at under-23s, under-24s, and WUCC in 2016, where the teams always fare very well. They're incredibly athletic players, not necessarily on the taller side, although looking at Heat Haze, that's kind of against the general rule. We have a few taller players on this squad, so it'll be quite interesting to see how they play, whether they will utilize that extra element of height that people might not necessarily anticipate from a Japanese team.
And looks like Warao are going to start on defense, or are they? McDonald just high releasing a flick out of his hands. I thought he was going to take that pull, but they do have a game disc.
As you can probably see on the stream, the flags in the background, it has gotten a bit blustery today. It has definitely affected some teams, with discs soaring a little bit more than they anticipated, especially with the hot air. It sails and it carries an extra bit further than a receiver might think.
Yeah, wind coming from the near sideline to the far, so a cross-field wind. Again, it wasn't that windy this morning. In the first game, it's quite overcast. By now, the wind's picked up, and so the sun has come out. Sun cream lathered on from the commentary booth as far as the sideline. Everyone protect themselves from this US heat. And the first pull coming now. Tsubi launching up there, this one hanging perfectly. Oh, and looks like there's going to be a call if it's offside on the first pull. letting them know they're going to be calling it. And with the game devices here, they're going to signal that up to the team themselves to call it, but they're going to make the WFDF hand signal of crossing their arms above their head to let them know what's happened. They're standing on the goal line to signal that.
Yes, teams have the option to take the offside call as the game advisors signal for it. And the disc has to go back to the defensive team to re-pull. And I believe if it occurs again, then it's taken from the brick mark. I might be wrong.
The Sioux boy now getting a similar pull. Goes for the hang time. McDonald now. Anchoring the offense. Oh, and a little pass over the top, and they are off to the races. No stopping them. Where's the Heat Haze defense? As you see, Rowan McDonald, a player living in Washington, D.C. Oh, and the no-look pass. They are playing so cheeky so far. Loving the live stream. Nice pass at the space. As you see the towel and his back shorts. Oh, and that one not so cheeky. And Heat Haze with the opportunity to break first point. Kobayashi. Oh, and that one going to ground. McDonald. Using the width of the field. Perez. McDonald now shooting to the end zone. That's a goal. Warao hold. Although turning over once, they get the goal.
Warao doing so well to work the disc down. They utilize such nippy little passes, finding the gaps in between the Heat Haze defense, and it's worked in their advantage incredibly well. Both of these teams are incredibly athletic, and you can see that no look there. He just found that gap. I love watching offense like this.
Yeah, a fun point to start off the game. As you see that pass going to ground, good pressure on it. And then Perez moving the disc quick. As we see this goal set up then for Rolando Araque. And definitely a bit of a DC flavor on this O-line for Warao. Daniel Zambrano and Matthew Rohan McDonald living in the DC area. Let's see what their D-line can do now. Zambrano with the pull. No offside this time. Looks like the wind might carry it out of bounds, almost hitting the game advisor. Now, typically, we've seen a lot of Japanese offense be a kind of a 1-6 offset vert stack. A lot of different styles that it's always interesting at a world championships like this, how they clash and how different cultures and flavors come into the fold. Haze hits the middle. This little boy. Oh, and someone has to duck out of the way. Great awareness and a beautiful hold. Moria, he threw at one of his other players who decided to fall to the ground and duck under it, which is unusual, but it worked.
No bubbles offense. Japan coming out firing for that point. And as you said, a lot of Japanese teams tend to go for the 1-6, trying to create a lot of space for cutters to have that ability to move and to get the disc moving. But Heat Haze using a very traditional horizontal stack, throwing it to the first available cutter.
Yeah, that unusual there, but ends up in the hands of WUCC, who gets the assist. Part of the 2016 men's team that competed in London, getting the silver medal. So expect to see him on the disc quite a lot. Also has his own ultimate company, OVNI, involved in quite a few things in the ultimate community. And yeah, what have you been doing, Gigi, to cope with the heat here in Ohio?
Funnily enough, I actually got heat stroke yesterday. I was not coping too well, but today it's just been lots of food, lots of water, and ice cold clothing to soak your back. It helps a lot.
How are you finding the food options here in Ohio as well?
Not as expansive as New York. I visited New York briefly before this.
Puck goes up. McDonald not in space at all, but manages to chase that one down. That was just a hook and hope, and the little pop pass, and relying heavily on the player there. He threw that hook, and there was 2 Japanese men 3-4 yards deep of him. That was just eyes for McDonald, who's been doing it for the DC Breeze so far this year, and the hat comes off as we see the hair flowing. And some war paint on the Venezuelan players, which I think you might have some as well. Is that correct, Gigi?
It wasn't my choice, but I couldn't really say no. But it's interesting watching the Venezuelans play their offense, considering that not a lot of them actually train together or even live in Venezuela. So seeing them gel, which they actually said to us, they've had to gel quite strongly over the past 2 days they've been playing together. And it doesn't look like they don't train at all. There's so much chemistry and this bond that you can't really replicate with training as much.
Yeah, and they've done well in this tournament so far. Universe point win over Örebro from Sweden, 14-13. Lost narrowly to top European team Ragnarok, 14-11. So I was not sure what you're going to get from this team, but once they saw those score lines, I know this is going to be a great game. And looks like there could be another offside, which I think that means they take it from their own brick mark. Oh, looks like a tactic Haze are using, calling it on the first time. You see the game advisors pointing, I think, to the halfway.
Although actually the handler on disc signaled for a stall out, which is a little bit confusing.
Yeah, so that's the second offside, which means they get to take it from the halfway line. Using the rules to their advantage here. And I think Warao will be looking at the offsides more intently because they can't afford to do that again, lose half the field. Captain Kobayashi with the disc now, wearing the red hat. Nice inside pass, not a lot of room, but gets it off. Looking now for the safe hands of Kobayashi. Over the Moria, ready with 1 goal. Looks like there's a call in the field, quite an aggressive mark, uncontested. Parked outside the front corner now. As we see the drone shot. Again, this setup of an offset vert stack, very, very visible from that aerial perspective. Oh, and not able to jam it in that front corner. Warao with a chance to break.
The first turn for Heat Haze so far. A lot of pressure from Warao as well on defense.
Bagley gets the cheeky flick off, find the space. Oh, well grasped by Willie Marin, who's living in Venezuela at the moment. And Georgi Aponte on the ground. Hopefully he's okay. I think he's just calling foul and allowing himself to get back on his feet.
It's definitely a good call. It's incredibly intense playing in these conditions. It gets surprisingly a lot hotter towards the end of the day. You would expect it would start to cool down, but it doesn't. So him taking that extra second is good.
And then use that time to set up a big flick hook. Beautiful throw. Mario Plaza, another Venezuelan man. Oh, it's going back. Travel on a throw. Didn't see it initially, but perhaps that was the case.
It's not surprising when games like this are quite closely contested that slightly smaller or minor calls like travels are brought out just to allow the defense to reset and, well, reset physically and mentally.
Yeah, Heat Haze letting nothing slide, calling that travel, calling the offsides there, playing by the book. We'll see if Aponte can hit that hook a second time. There's a man free in the end zone. Decides against it. Very deep stack. And crossfield hammer goes up, a lot of pressure. Oh, great defense. Oh, another call. This point being quite choppy.
Potentially a strip call as against a foul. Strip being the Warao player believing that he had full possession of the disc and it was knocked out of his hand.
Takagishi coming across here for Heat Haze. Oh, looked like he got it clean, but hard to say.
The game advisors here can provide their opinion, but they do not have the final say. So the players themselves have the final say as against game observers, which they have a lot in the US. So whilst the game advisors can provide an opinion, which the players are probably looking for now to get a better perspective and an unbiased perspective, they don't have to follow what they say.
And it's an uncontested foul. We see 4 players there in the discussion, and I think we have the 2 players involved and also 2 translators. I think they're probably communicating through English, but not their native language for either nation. So calls taking a little longer than usual, but I think that's just more a language barrier than anything. This will go back. I think he'll think twice about throwing that big crossfield hammer into the wind. Edgar says. Gets the round swing. Aponte. Now shooting to the end zone, the crossfield in the upwind side. And this one won't be contested. Mario Plaza gets on the scoreboard.
A break for Warao is definitely going to get them fired up. Heat Haze might just be feeling a little bit in their own heads, a little bit down. But they just need to hold their focus.
The score now, Warao Ultimate 3, Heat Haze 1.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Welcome back to the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships here. We're in the men's division. Heat Haze from Japan trailing to Warao Ultimate Club from Venezuela, getting the early lead. But Heat Haze now had a chance to get a point back coming out on offense. Venezuela definitely onside this time, but by 4 or 5 yards. Looks like this pull could sail out of bounds. The wind catching that one from Rowan McDonald. So yeah, now the wind maybe turning slightly and going a little more left to right. Still going towards the far sideline, but a little bit of an upwind, downwind situation.
We noticed earlier on playing one of our games that the wind had actually changed direction going on from one point to the next. It went more upwind, downwind to crosswind.
Haze shoots straight away. It's Yusa, the man who played in London. A debate whether he jumped in or not. It's been called not in. Let's see if they can get it off. Tries to be patient. Oh, definitely not in again that time. Some great cutting. We need to work on the footwork, but he gets the goal this time. Hiroshi Yusa.
Heat Haze with the end zone eyes, looking for that very early huck option. They maybe made that decision on the line or just before the line after taking a little bit of a breather, just to say, get it down to the end. We're not going to be able to work it as well against this incredibly athletic Venezuelan team. And what a shot.
I think that might have been the right call. It did look like he caught it before jumping initially, but gets the goal nonetheless. Hiroshi, you got to think he's a top player. If he made that Japan team that finished second in London, again, a lot of the Buzz Bullets would have been eligible then, so he's competing with them, the likes of the players on Nomadic Tribe. So just making that roster is an achievement that not many players can say they've done. It's a pity we don't have more Japanese teams represented here because, as they've shown, one of the few teams to actually win the men's division was the Japanese team back in Perth, I think 2006, Buzz Bullets winning. And again, just onside that time, Warao. On offense, you have to have 1 foot on the line. Brilliant pull. Now at Rowan. And looks like a zone from Haze. Quite a lot of people around the disc. 5 people in tight. But Warao gets some yards now. McDonald. Matthew Smith. Another player based in the US. Expect to see more from this game, and now they're looking at to set up a sideline trap. A lot of pressure in that small space. Look, there's a call in the field. A foul.
The Haze coming into this point with what looks to be a junk zone. So that's 1 chase and 3 people in the cup, 2 wings and a deep.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Warao haven't tried to throw over it yet, really. Because there's a lot of people close to this, and there's room in this far sideline, but choosing to find the little gaps in between, and McDonald doing incredibly well to do so. Just playing up that sideline now, stretching it. Perez just goes for the reset, and that little 1-yard pop pass doing a lot for them, and then a great goal. Matthew Rowan McDonald orchestrating that zone offense.
Warao showing, again, a surprising amount of chemistry for a team that's really only been together for the past 2 days. And they did perfectly well against that junk zone. The best way to get around it is to keep following the disc. If you're looked off, you clear to allow someone else to keep breaking through that cup, create some space for some extra gaps. But they didn't need to. They just followed through the sideline, and it's paid off.
I think something they did well, which a lot of teams don't, is actually take the 1-yard pass. And sometimes just taking 2 or 3 of those 1-yard pass allows you to throw around the zone then. They're a little bit out of position. A lot of people always looking it off, want to throw over, but if they're giving those 1-2 yard pass, take 20 of them. Get it up the field, and then you can use the bigger pass, and that's what they did. And a bit of a sideline trap, but still managed to find the tight little spaces, and I think that's part of the South American style of Ultimate. They like their little give-goes, quick movement, so perhaps that zone playing into their hands.
We watched them warming up just before the game started. They were doing a very narrow and quite tight drill, just really short up the lines to get the disc moving, get them used to quick acceleration, quick catches, dishing it off. And that seems to be their style of play. They have created chemistry just through these dishes.
And playing the horizontal stack. Haze. To Soboy. Over the Haze. Oh, and a dangerous pass. It works out. Gets it on the second attempt. Fantastic layout. The offhand backhand there to move it towards the middle of the field. Very quick movement in the handlers. Stretched like a slinky Warao. They are so quick, and again trying to jump in, but not coming off. Let's see if they can push this one in.
Haze's end zone offense is interesting. They're very close to the disc, maybe trying to get a dish again, utilizing small passes, looking to a dump slightly later than you might want to, but it works out.
How fast do they move it around the backfield? You know, the handlers have it for 1-2 seconds, super crisp passes. And just as a defender, you're defending the open side, and then before you know it, there's a quick swing and an easy throw to the break side. Great recovery catch there to keep this alive. Oh, it catches with his left hand after attempting first with his right. And, you know, the Japanese known as the kings of small ball, just stretching around the end zone, using the full width.
Yeah, you made a very good point about the quick release of the disc. That's something that's quite difficult to learn. It takes a lot of training and a lot of focus throwing, hours and hours and hours every single week of focus throwing to try and get the quick release, and even learning that from your teammates as well.
Yeah, a lot of time they're not going for the two-hand clap catch. They're going for the kind of backhand grip catch, two hands, which allows them to go straight into their grip and throw it with momentum. And they don't pull back their arm, they just snap their wrist with a nice little touch, and that gets the release so quick that catches defenders out. Again, the zone again from Heat Haze. Let's see if they can make some adjustments to stop that small ball. McDonald now looking up for the overhead options. Hard in that upwind. But again, they just keep with the small ball. Now getting it to the upwind side. A little easier to keep it moving. Three handlers all in the same space around the disc. Now gets it to Matthew Smith. Playing for Atlanta Hustle. I think actually one of the captains of the Atlanta Hustle team. Oh, and almost a foot block, and immediately both players agree it was a foul. Kobayashi apologizing. Unintentional kick of the hand.
Heat Haze's zone is doing very well to maintain the disc within a certain area. Warao having to make a lot of shots.
Yeah, they're very good at recognizing the crashes. They point at one person, you follow that in, and they're doing so more effectively. I think they really want to make Warao throw over the zone. And again, they're not going to. They'll find the holes, picking away. Still haven't gone for the overhead. Now we see it. Not getting much yards, but opening up the space. Oh, the high release flick could be on. Oh, fakes the push pass, shows the lefty. Some brilliant fakes to create space as well. As you can see, the Japanese player is definitely biting on the fakes as well. So it's important with that zone offense for both cutters to create space, but for handlers to fake and get people out of position. Romero. Towel tucked into the back of the shorts. Smith. Under a lot of pressure. Oh, and the quick give go. Oh, a tight gap to squeeze through, but they do it. Smith with the goal.
That was very close to the sideline, at least from our perspective. It could have been either way, but Heat Haze not contesting at all. That was a score well deserved. Warao not holding up on their offense. And again, you can see here the incredible defensive pressure from Heat Haze. What this junk zone is designed to do is to contain the disc within the backfield, because the more throws that the more throws you make, the more likely it is to potentially either throw it away, get a block, or drop the disc. And that's hopefully their intention for the junk zone.
Yeah, Warao playing most of their ultimate like a 10-meter box around the disc. Such little space, and having to run around the defenders in the cup, but they're doing it well. It's working. They're not turning over against it. Seems unorthodox at times, taking so many one-yard passes, but it's a tactic that is working out for this team. Again, very much committed to this 3-4 offense, the Japanese team. Faking the big backhand hook. Oh, that one just into the turf. John Bagley picking up. High release lefty backhand. We've seen a lot of that from this team. Unusual that all players like to do it, though not playing with each other regularly. Oh, just a loose crossfield pass. It was definitely on. It just slipped out of his hands. Perhaps the humidity playing a factor there.
Potentially fatigue as well. It is tiring in this sun. and in this humidity, it drags all the water out of you, and it's difficult to cool down because it's so humid. You sweat, but it sticks to you. You can't, it doesn't evaporate at all, so you can't actually cool down.
Now we see Warao with the honest match defense and treads it through the needle. And that classic give-go Japanese offense takes flight. As you see Fukuyama stretching the field again. They do that so well. Never hitting the middle, just if it's not free in this cone, we'll swing it quickly over to the other side.
Warao have the heads down on the pitch, walking to the line and coming off of the line as well. They are probably also quite fatigued. It's been an exhausting 2 days, and we've still got another 5 days left.
Yeah, and 10 of the Warao players denied visas coming to this tournament, including their captain, Luis Tare, who I'm sure is watching the stream and shouting at the television at home, cheering his team on, and they've been doing fantastic so far. Still in the lead after getting an early break. Haze now found their rhythm though. Let's see if they can get one back. I'll be surprised now if they do that zone again. Takase with the pull. What do you think, Gigi?
It would not be the best option. You want to be able to throw off your offense. You don't want the offensive line to be able to think, okay, we know how to play through your zone. We've scored at least twice from this. Let's just keep it going. Let's keep this powering through. And they know what to expect now. They know what the weaknesses are in this zone. So either I'm expecting match defense or a change up to potentially an Arrowhead or an FSU.
I think they're doing a match defense, but a lot of help downfield. I think they're taking turns, kind of switching between players, but not quite any set zone, just a lot of communication, talking on the field. Looks like they're forcing middle.
So the idea for force middle is to not necessarily contain, but to prevent longer shots from going off. Potentially Haze are worried about any sort of longer shots.
And the quick backhand continuations up this near sideline catches Haze out. Brilliant work by Matthew Smith there. I believe he lived in Venezuela for 5 years. So Warao keep their lead 6-4.
If you want to be a high performer, eat like one. Start with a balanced diet and drink plenty of water. Good nutrition is one of the best ways to boost your mental and your physical health.
Welcome back to this men's division game, last game of the day. Still in the first half. Warao lead after getting an early break, 6-4. Haze coming out in offense now. Haze. And a zone of its own from Warao. Looks more like a 2-3-2, and whoa, fantastic athletic bid. Gigantic play. Andres Chestnut there, getting horizontal. And he's now looking to get the bookends as he dives around the short field. Oh, it looks like it could be an injury, maybe something hitting him in the eye as he fell on the ground. Yeah, but Andres Chestnut getting huge as Japanese look to run past that zone. Weren't expecting him to get fully horizontal.
Warao player being in a significant amount of pain. Not entirely sure what's happened.
And it's the first time we've seen this Warao zone, and it caught Japan off guard with this fantastic layout bid there. Oh, it just gets the claw to it. Didn't have much time to react, but brilliant instincts.
Full extension, zero hesitation, going for that disc, got the D, and it's worked out. There has been an injury substitution.
Yeah, and looks like they're going to bring on Matthew Rowan McDonald, who's been their talisman for this team, a great man to bring on and pick up the disc. Let's see if he tries to bang it in first time and just hits it to the middle. Sideline cut now on, and a great goal. Looks like there's a pick, which would make sense. He had acres of space.
Main difference that I've noticed between the two teams' end zone offenses is that Warao are completely happy to take their time, especially in the backfield, weaving it between their handlers to create a continuation cut. But Haze is almost end zonized. They just want to get it in. They want to jam it in. They know that they're down, so they want to create more points to get them ahead.
And it looks like there could be another pick. A lot of people cutting in that stack and not using the full end zone towards the back of it. So it's not surprising that you have these picks. As we see the aerial shot again, not many people stacking out the back of the end zone. As it comes back in, a violation called, but we'll get this restarted. Resets to McDonald. Shimmying, trying to shake and bake on the mark, but good pressure. Pushing them backwards. Again, this stack is all over the place. Trying to get more structure now. Comes out to Mario Plaza, who's got one goal already. Got called back for that second when a pick was called. And they're keeping the disc, but in fact going backwards, heading towards the wrong end zone. But keeping possession, which is 9/10 of the law. Now, Carlos Romero getting high in the stall count. Well, what's he going to do? Looks like there's a call. And pointing towards his toe is Fukuyama, saying he got stepped on. Yeah, definitely his toe. He's made that very clear. Hopefully that little piggy makes it back to the market.
The language barrier probably playing a role in him pointing at his foot quite a lot.
Asking him if he see any of the World Cup football games, perhaps.
Neymar.
Yeah, thankfully the only diving is for discs in this sport. And a timeout call, and that's a great decision by Carlos Romero. Their offense looked in shambles there at times, but doing well to keep possession, but we were in 6s and 7s in the stack. They were all over the shop.
Again, they are willing to take their time in the backfield to get the disc moving, keep the defense on their toes, but hopefully on their back foot to get it straight into the end zone. They've got a very simple structure of dish cut up the line for a second option. If not, a dump will come back. There's always the continuation cut coming from the back of stack. And they're working really hard. Both of these teams are working incredibly hard.
Let's see what tactics they change here. Looks like McDonald is suggesting what they should do. But I think more importantly, they just wanted a little sip of water, steady themselves. Perhaps Haze will try and throw something a little different at them, give them the opportunity to set up. Looks like McDonald is isolated in the front. A handler poached in the back. Let's see if he can keep this space, and they hit the poach straight away. Mario Plaza. And it looks like we're back to what we were at before. A lot of people moving, and this going backwards. As you can see from the aerial view, you'll see the lack of structure in this offense currently, as they're now back at the halfway line, having been on the goal line. But again, keeping possession, perhaps just trying to run this Japanese team into the ground. And now McDonald tries to take control, the quick give go. And he could be free for the goal. But good recovery defense from Haze. Romero, one of the few players that takes his time. Oh, and the towel drops as he dives for that one. There is a loose towel in the middle of the field. Oh, a wayward disc to the back of the end zone. It might work out. It looks like it does. Oh, he's been called out while many players calling him in. Edgar Mujica, living in Vancouver. I'm sure a few friends from Vancouver watching. Actually plays Ultimate with Owen Wallace Wally, the man who taught me how to play. So I'm glad we made that little connection, took a photo, we're going to send it back. Looks like he made a fantastic grab inbounds to me.
It was not necessarily a good sense of where that disc was actually going or who it was intended for. It just seemed to be jammed into the end zone.
Yeah, I think they just wanted that point to end as they were really struggling to get offensive flow. Discussing now, a very tight call. Game advisor listening into the discussion. So they will discuss this for a little while longer. I think the defender was calling him out, but he was also bidding. I don't think he had actually a great perspective. I don't think anyone did of that call. We have one player on the sideline near white tent, nothing to do with either. Doing a little dance, signaling in, but perhaps his opinion won't be taken into account.
This call is taking quite a long time.
I'm sure that game advisors at some stage are going to step in and say, look, discussion's gone on long enough. There we have our guidelines as we hear the two whistles go.
So there are time limits for any sort of stoppage calls to reach a decision whether it's going to be contested, uncontested, or retracted. In this case, it's contested with a hand signaling of two fists bumping together. So this goes back to the original thrower, to the original stall count that the disc was thrown at. And everyone has to reset where they were. And hopefully Warao can actually get some offense going. I can see a tasty inside shot. That would be lovely.
Darren Ruiz just keeps it going. McDonald now. Oh, too much movement of anything in front of him yet again. Oh, and that was a weird looking push throw pass. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but it worked. And they get the break, extend the lead to 3 now.
Warao seem to be getting a little bit frustrated. Not necessarily at each other, but this is an intense game. The opposition is, well, the only way I can actually describe this is squirrely. They run a lot. It's very quick steps. They're always on their back foot. And that's difficult to work around. And it's very much a mental game at this point.
Yes, the classic squirrel offense. Looking for that chestnut in the end zone. But yeah, that was a very unusual throw. Two-handed push pass from Rowan McDonald. More than likely at stall 9 3/4 there when he got that one off. But definitely working really hard, Warao. Everyone perhaps cutting too much. But looks like a timeout is called by Haze. And you can do that as long as the first whistle has been blown. So it looks like they went, 30, 40 seconds into the start of that point before calling a timeout. They realize that if Warao score here, they will break for half, and they don't want that to happen. So yeah, the Venezuelan team that have only come together quite recently are doing a fantastic job so far. This club team, 15 years old, and this is the first time they've made it to the World Ultimate Club Championships.
Yeah, some of the original players of the Warao team feeling quite proud of their roots in this club, of how much it's grown, and very proud to represent Venezuela. As you said earlier, they're wanting to focus on the positives at the moment, and hopefully they can bring this to take half against an incredibly strong Haze team.
Yeah, it looks like that timeout is over, and it'll be a few seconds till we restart this one. Haze going downwind on offense. Aponte now with the pull. Definitely onside. Wausa has the free cutter. Warao has been working really hard, particularly with those lateral cuts. Offhand, backhand to get the reset. Here we are, Haze. And a foul called. Number 77, Fukuyama, wearing one white glove. Very Michael Jackson-esque. Not sure what brand of glove that is, but looks quite fancy. Perhaps going to challenge someone to a duel later on in the week.
We do often see quite a lot of Japanese players wearing gloves for extra grip or aid in catching, but it seems to be very commonplace in Japanese culture for Frisbee.
And again, this Haze offense, entirely different. Really just one or two people moving. Oh, and a massive layout bid. Pops up again, but caught by no one. Again, out of nowhere, you see them ramp up the defense and make a big play. Now they can break for half here. Smith gets things rolling. Edgar Garces finding it rather easy to get free of this Warao team. Eventually the Haze defense is a little more set. Slow to transition out of offense. Good fakes, creates the space. Mark's being moved all around the field, and then just free in the front corner of the end zone. Easy goal to get half.
There wasn't much movement downfield for the Warao cutters. They seem to want to prefer isolating particular people in particular areas of the pitch to get the disc moving and move it round to get it onto what I believe was the break side on a mark that just wasn't set. They've taken half.
Yeah, the Japanese defense, they're looking very chilled after turning over. It didn't seem to want to rush too hard to make the defensive play, but that's all for the first half. Stay tuned for more.
There is a place where we are us at our best.
A place where everyone is welcome,
regardless of age, shape, skin color, or anything else that tries to box people in.
A place where we defy the odds.
And even defy gravity.
a place that knows grit, knows grace, knows bright lights, and knows empty bleachers.
A place where we remember to laugh.
Where we learn to trust.
And eventually, even learn to fly.
A place where character, community, and competition
are all as balanced as a disc in flight.
That place isn't in a stadium or on a field.
That place is in the spirit of our players.
Because we don't just play Ultimate, we live Ultimate.
Warao Ultimate Club from Venezuela dominating this first half, now leading 8-4. Haze have a lot of work to do if they want to get back into this game. Matthew Smith playing out of his skin for this Venezuelan team. 1 assist and 2 goals. Moriah for Haze, 2 goals as well. And I think just the Venezuelan players bringing a little more energy, a little more fire to this game. We've seen them make the big bids on defense, laying out, as we see that no-look pass from the first point. Some South American flair, not afraid to get creative. Some brilliant plays throughout the game. McDonald with that two-handed push pass. Both teams playing for fun, enjoying their time here at the World Ultimate Club Championships. First for both teams, I believe. And let's see if this Haze team can step it up in the second half. It's likely they may carry this result on to the power pool, so every point will count. Warao there, that has been the difference between the two teams. And stay tuned for more actions in the first half. Second half coming shortly.
My name is Zara. I go by she and her pronouns. I am white. I live in Baltimore, Maryland.
I'm Chip. I go by she, her pronouns. I identify as Asian American or Korean American. I am from Los Angeles, but I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
My name is Will Neff. I am he, him, his, and I'm white. I'm from Amherst, Mass, which is close to where I currently live, in Conway, Mass.
Hi, I'm Sass. I'm from New York City, but I was born in Texas. I'm African American.
There's a lot of ways that we're looking to really become comfortable making power explicit so that we can become more comfortable breaking down some of those cultural patterns.
So some of the ways that we're going to do that are by assuming good intent and then taking care of impact. So often people who hold dominant identities really focus on intent. Say, well, that's not what I meant, that's not what I meant, and we get stuck there instead of taking care of the impact of something. We want to make sure that we are sort of bringing attention to, in terms of making power explicit, things that maybe we need to stop for a second and say, hold on, that maybe hit me a different way, or can we stop, can we pause and talk about that, about the impact of what was said. Patriarchy sort of infiltrates each of us internally, is that we are very used to thinking in binaries. Is something right or is it wrong? And that's something that we all do all the time. In different situations, call ourselves back to saying, well, both of these things can exist, because in order to really think about complexity, we have to step out of thinking of things as binaries.
Oftentimes with these conversations, the end result is usually, okay, what's the answer? How do I fix it? If there was a solution, we wouldn't have to have this conversation. So this is, a disclaimer for now and always in eternity. Expect non-closure. We constantly have to adapt. Keep in mind that non-closure is something that will happen after this and beyond.
Welcome back to the World Ultimate Club Championships here in Ohio. Great feature there on gender equity from Fulcrum Media. Hopefully see a few more clips like that. I'm Liam Grant, joined here by Gigi Morrison. Hello. And during the little break there, me and Gigi were chatting about water loss and having to drink lots of water at a tournament like this. Can you explain the program you've set up in Reading Ultimate and what you're doing to prepare?
Okay, so we have the benefit of we've got our own physio that we brought over, and we also have a student strength and conditioning coach of sorts. So they've kind of worked together to establish a regime that we have where we weigh ourselves in the morning and again in the evening at specific times, so we can see how much water loss we've had throughout the day and then adjust as such. So say we're down by a kilo, we drink a litre of water to counteract it, and then continue to drink a lot more throughout the night and eat a lot more throughout the day. So we have to drink enough water, and it also causes us to pee a lot. Not ideal.
Not ideal, you say. How about putting in a few beers there to counteract it? Anyone doing that in the Reading squad?
We've got our very own sideline of Benji Wilson, goodness, and Jack Lynch, who are quite happily having some sips of beer on the odd occasion.
Yeah, we'll have to weigh them after this tournament's over and see what they've gained.
Oh, they weigh themselves as well. It's interesting, the water loss.
Water loss, but fun gained here in the fields in Ohio, as Heat Haze come out on offense here, looking to bounce back after a slow first half. It looks like they've called offside again, which I believe will have them bring it in the halfway line. And it's not often you see teams do this as much as they have.
It's definitely important to establish some boundaries for teams, especially when it comes to spirit in general. Like, this is it's a self-refereed sport, and as a community we want to be able to hold on to that, so being quite vigilant with the rules is beneficial.
Yeah, that one coming in the brick mark, so it's if you are offside twice in a row, I believe, that it then comes into the halfway line. And looking at their first offensive point here out of half. Getting high in the stall count, Okano gets it off, then looks for it again. Gets the quick pass. Offense looking a little better now. They've had the chance to discuss how they're going to beat this athletic Warao D-line during the halftime.
Heat Haze have probably discussed adjusting their offense slightly. So getting those dishes, the very fast uplines that Warao have been utilizing themselves. Maybe just to fight fire with fire.
And we see yet again Hiroshi being the top cutter of this team, getting free in the front corner. And I think their O-line offense has actually been pretty good. It's when the O-line turns over, they seem a bit slow to get it back. But that a flawless first point for Heat Haze in the second half. I'm sure you've been trundling along the sidelines here in Ohio, Gigi. Any games that have excited you, or any upsets that you were surprised on, or big games you enjoyed watching?
To be perfectly honest, I haven't actually been able to watch that much. When you're playing, you want to be able to focus on looking after yourselves and each other. We have caught a couple of glimpses, so we watched Chevron Action Flash from the UK versus Pelt from Limerick in Ireland.
Let's not talk about
pulling
that
a
one.
sad face.
Let's move on swiftly to that. Any other Chevron games?
Again, I'm not sure. I haven't been able to catch any. I had heat stroke yesterday, so I've been trying to look after myself today.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you had a heat stroke yesterday, but that can definitely happen as we find ourselves in this Heat Haze in Ohio. Japanese team now on defense. McDonald. Again with that kind of two-handed push pass, which I find very strange, but something he seems to do quite a lot of. And again, they reset the disc quite close to each other. Oh, and trying to throw over the defender, and it works out, although it shouldn't have. Working in the small spaces. McDonald's gone deep. 3 goals and 2 assists so far in this game. Now the deep option's on. He's not afraid to throw it to Smith, but too much blade on it. And Heat Haze celebrate like they've just won the lotto.
Warao feeding the disc through Rowan a lot. They maybe rely on him substantially because of his experience in the States and how much grind he has to get the disc moving and get it to where it needs to go. But Heat Haze are now very excited. You could hear the sideline cheering on their D-line.
Under a lot of pressure, McDonald trying to get it back after throwing it away. Can't do it just yet. Hat falls off and he finds himself getting broken on the mark. Oh, and a sensational grab as he climbs the ladder. Tone. Hiroki. They're discussing whether he was in or out of bounds, but looked very much inbounds from the commentary booth. Actually had a good perspective here. Looks like he will be called inbounds, and the disc will stand where the throw came off. Hiroki Maraguchi now gets the pass off, and Heat Haze could really do with a break now. Get 2 in a row at a half to tighten the gap. Maraguchi again, leading pass into space. That one was always going to be difficult.
We're seeing a lot more mistakes being made at critical times, and another timeout has been called, which is a wise decision.
Carlos Romero, I think that's his second timeout of the game. This guy loves calling timeouts, and he's right to do so. He's nailed them each time he has.
And more often than not, a timeout, especially in very tricky conditions, whether it's hot or cold or just mentally exhausting, is just taking a breather. Being able to have a sip of water, congregate with your team, with your line, and get your heads centered again, get your heads back into the game, because it's so easy to get flustered when you're in such tricky conditions and against intense teams. Having a little dance.
As you see this huge grab here from Hiroki Tony, and looked like he might have been forced out. He made a sensational grab, getting huge. Catches the disc, and I think he might have been landing inbounds if he didn't get that contact. So I think the right call to say that he was forced out and that they should keep possession. But just a fantastic jump nonetheless. And they got really excited there when Heat Haze got the disc back. I was wondering how up for this game are they, but when they got that opportunity to get the break, they got the turn, they cheered, the whole sideline got super excited, so they're up for this game. This back in off the timeout. Looking a little more structured. Safe hands of Carlos Romero. Doing really well, Romero again. Keeps the flow. Osorio. Now McDonald. Unable to milk that one in. Big fakes, always working that small space, dishes it off. A lot of people around the disc. Oh, and that is a crazy arcing backhand, but when it's under, McDonald under it, it's a great throw and gets a score on the board, 9-5.
That's how you know you trust a player. You can put up the worst of all spices and you trust your receiver to get it.
Yeah, I was looking at it going, what is he doing? And then I saw who was standing underneath it. Fantastic two-footed jump. Keeps his position really well. Goes up with two hands as well, and a man you can rely on. So both teams with wins already in this pool, so it's likely they'll both progress to the next stages. The big thing is not finishing last in the men's and women's divisions, as as the bottom seed gets knocked out, and that kind of is a little bit of a bummer for the rest of your week if you're out on day 2. You want to keep the dream alive as long as possible, and it's quite a forgiving schedule, so you might feel hard done by. I think there's likely going to be a few 3-way ties, though, that we'll see a team going down on goal difference. But I think both these teams will progress to power pools in some shape or form. Kobayashi. Great lateral cut to Soyboy. Looking for Haze and dishes it off. Oh, and I think he gains control of that just before he reaches the sideline, and they looked straight at the game advisor for advice, but he just kept his hands behind his back. He wants them to discuss it amongst themselves first. And you see he did fumble it initially. And some good continuation movement, and this was a great option, but did he fumble it and bring it out of bounds? You can see he does fumble, but looked like to me he gained control before going out of bounds.
It is always a difficult call to make. Because you yourself as the receiver don't know necessarily where the line is, but you know when you gained complete control of the disc.
Now the game advisors can only give their opinion, but I think in these situations it was clear the game advisor had the best perspective. And you should go with that when possible, game advisor or not. If you have someone standing there and oh, it's going to be a turnover, so obviously able to discuss that one, perhaps fumbling it one more time as he landed out of bounds. And maybe just as he hit the ground, we'll trust the players made the correct call. Warao with a big hook. This one hanging up, it's going to be a battle in the air, but falling backwards, gets the goal. Brilliant read and good adjustment. Diego Rodriguez gets his first goal.
The Heat Haze defender knew that he got there a little bit too early. You could see him dip his head in frustration.
Yeah, that is Hiroshi jumping very early, and as he tumbles into the soil, Diego Rodriguez gets another goal for Warao Ultimate, 10-5.
Do you want to avoid overuse injuries? Cross-train. Get your exercise routine out of a routine and mix it up with a variety of activities. Your muscles, tendons, and joints will thank you later.
Back here in Lebanon, Ohio, where Warao Ultimate Club have opened up some daylight between Heat Haze, now leading by 5 points. A big ask for the Japanese men to get back into this game. But they got their shades on and looking cool in the eyes of a tall task.
I was going to ask about that actually. Is there a rule for wearing sunglasses or any sort of glasses on the pitch, or is that completely allowed?
You're allowed to wear sunglasses, just not allowed to throw shade, as we see McDonald lay out and stop that up the line cut. The superstar. Yeah, but what I like about this Japanese team is they all have the same hats, which is actually a rule in WFDF, and very few teams are actually doing it. They're wearing different hats. It has to be part of a uniform, like your jersey, like your shorts. But few teams obliging to. We point at the point there's a travel call, and they stop play when they're not really supposed to. That is the WFDF rules. Play continues when the throw hasn't been thrown yet.
Yeah, I believe the hats rule might have been a little bit more loose for this tournament, considering how hot and how sunny it is. It's difficult to play in these conditions without any sort of extra sun protection. A lot of players are opting for So maybe WUFF took into account the players' well-being over, let's wear some hats.
Well, I think it's more of a case that they're going to struggle to enforce it with 20 or so fields. They can't go around as the hat police. As the man with the backwards cap, Alejandro Paredes, gets a goal himself. And this whole roster is sprinkled with goals and assists, using every player. Smith getting another assist.
Yeah, hat police would be an interesting addition to some tournaments, but one thing I would love to see is a sun cream slip and slide. Sun protection and fun, all in one.
GG, sun protection is always fun, slip slide or not. But that sounds expensive, is what I would initially think with a slip and slide. But fun. I've never even heard of that. Has one existed before? Or did
A
you
sun
just
cream slip and slide?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Have you just come up with that off the top of your head?
Patented, clearly. It's mine.
All the viewers right now have gone to their shed, got out their tarpaulin and raiding their shelves for sun cream.
If I see on Dragon's Den when I get back home to the UK that somebody's come up with a sun cream slip and slide, I'm going to take credit.
Yeah, definitely need your sunscreen here today in Ohio, and they almost are offside in that pool, and they just don't throw it because they realize that's happening. So I think something a lot of players, if you're not playing high level all the time, won't be used to those offside calls or the strictness of it. As you see, Heat Haze 6 points down now. You gotta wonder if they have what it takes to get back. Matsumura. Kobayashi sends one over the top. How did he get that one there? Fantastic goal.
Beautiful vision. I did not see that coming whatsoever. But the thrower knew what the disc needed from the wind and curled it perfectly onto the break side. So the Warao defender could not actually get anywhere near to the disc.
Kobayashi with the assist. Arcing one right over the stack, and Hiroki Maraguchi, number 19, one of the 5 Samurai players, picking up with this Heat Haze team. So they got the second place last year qualifying for this, and they decided to take a few top players from other Japanese squads, and they're definitely helping this team out.
Is you'll be able to see, or at least hear from the game advisors, they have their own whistles in order to communicate any time limits in between each point for the pull to go up, for signaling to happen.
McDonald now to Matthew Smith. High release backhand. Deep option is there, and he sends one to who else? McDonald. You gotta trust him to bring that one in, and lands with a foot on the line, so not in, but dishes it off. The man is on fire. Javier Osorio chasing down after McDonald, helping him out. Many people think he was gonna land in, but this man was in support. And they're running away with this one, GG.
It was very good to realize that he was not in bounds of the end zone, and having that ability to react quickly prevented any sort of Heat Haze defense from setting, allowing the extra streaking player to receive the disc for a score.
Yeah, I thought there was maybe a weaker Heat Haze line there. I think they might have decided they're going to rest a few players in this game. It's gone out of their reach, that they'll use the whole roster now to try and gain some experience and save a few legs for what will be more important games for them and their strategy into the bracket play. And McDonald is out there again. He's played a lot of points. You're wondering if he's doing this in every match. perhaps need him for the duties of pulling, which he's done fantastically there.
Or even just to maintain this large margin that they've got. 'Cause it's easy to let up on a team when you're so far ahead of them. They could start to climb back, especially when they want it as much as this Heat Haze team does.
Now Okano shooting to the end zone, and they've opened up the Hawks a lot more, Heat Haze. And that one, delicious, a buttery biscuit right across the field.
I was waiting for you to say buttery biscuit, and you saved it for the absolute perfect time. What a throw. It completely opened up the pitch. And you can see the defender pretty much gave up as soon as he saw the disc just sitting into the hands.
Yeah, that is Okano, and that is actually my first buttery biscuit of the week, would you believe?
Are you serious?
6th game in.
It's not a game of Liam Grant commentary without a buttery biscuit or a feathery flick. Have you said feathery flick?
Oh, I've been dishing out the frosty and feathery flicks non-stop, but been saving the buttery biscuit in my back pocket for the opportune moment, and Okano gave me just that. Yeah, and again, number 99, Hiroshi, getting another goal. He's been a weapon for them. I believe that is his 3rd goal, 2 assists to his name as well.
He's quite a tall player, and that itself is something that they've probably wanted to capitalize on, utilizing some extra height to go up against what might be some taller players, especially from the US and Canada, and some of the European teams have that element of height.
Yeah, they're quite unusual, Japanese outfit, playing that horizontal stack, maybe a little more tall than they are fast, and playing like a more traditional North American, European team, less of the 1-6 vertical stack. So, yeah, unusual to see, not what I would have expected from a Japanese Ultimate team. But you can see that hockey game is perhaps a better option for them. McDonald on the field again. Working down the sideline, Smith dishes it off. Perez. And I think this is their favorite O-line, Warao.
I mean, if it works, it works. And clearly, the scoreline is showing that it does.
Orlando. Romero. McDonald, I think there might be a pick or foul called.
Start to see a lot more picks come across. Well, whenever the offense is a lot tighter, whenever fatigue starts to become a factor, picks happen more frequently. Just because you sometimes get in the way. It's an accident.
Getting a few messages from Venezuelan players from around the globe, and McDonald did all he could there, but I think he's caught himself in bounds. From all the way over here, it looked like he was out. But he's having a little giggle. He would have done exceptionally well to keep that in.
Heat Haze seem to be, well, at least some of their players are signaling a goal.
Yeah, they actually looked to the VAR Jumbotron, but I think that one can be very difficult to call in. I think if his hand hit the ground first, he may have been in. Looks like it's going to go back, and you see it was very close, you know. And these are calls that aren't unspirited from either side. Very difficult. A game of inches and a few blades of grass that have been painted white would decide whether or not that's a goal. So I think that it's a fair decision to send it back.
Yeah, it's definitely fair, especially, well, in these cases where it's contested, it's difficult to reach a lot more decisions, and that's when spirit begins to drop. Being able to maintain that balance between fair and strict is good.
You know, this Warao team has been great, except for their end zone offense sometimes, because what they usually do is take it all the way back to midfield and then try and do something crazy. because they're just running too much. You know, they love energy boosting around the place, and sometimes you gotta go like, no, let's just have 3 people running like crazy as opposed to 7.
They do run quite a lot, but that's credit to the Heat Haze defense. We've seen on a couple of occasions, especially going the direction that Warao are going now, that Heat Haze are very successful in pushing the disc further into the pitch, away from the end zone, and it's more advantageous for them in that case. It gets them closer to their own end zone if there is a turnover.
I'd love to see them play a classic Japanese half-court defense, because when they get to the end zone, they're actually very good at shutting down Warao, as opposed to when they allow them to get the continuation cuts and punch it in without setting up their defense. So in these positions like so, they're very good in those tight spaces, closing them down. So wouldn't mind seeing an old classico half-court. Have you ever played such a tactic?
As in stand on the halfway line and wait for them to get to you. I've seen it from the Japanese, actually, at WUGC in the final against the Americans. I was in the stands amongst many other people, and we were all really confused. We weren't entirely sure what was going on, but even the USA team, whilst confused, they were loving it. And that's something that we miss from Frisbee quite a lot, is that there's set structures, and we know a lot of these same structures, and it's very samey. So to have something like that is great.
The scuba up line, somewhat stuck on that far sideline. Carlos Romero shoots to McDonald again, who's running riot on this field. 13 points to 7, 2 away from clinching this game.
Heroin is definitely a linchpin for this Venezuelan team, racking up not only scores and assists, but driving everyone down the pitch.
Stay tuned for some more high-level Ultimate.
Heat illness strikes kids and adults alike during summer workouts. Watch for muscle cramps, fever, nausea, headache, weakness, or feeling faint. Act fast to get cool and get fluids.
Welcome back to the WFTF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships. We're here in the men's division in the business end of the final round. Warao in a comfortable position, up by 6 against Heat Haze from Japan, who rallied somewhat in the second half, but perhaps a little too late. Gigi, what are your thoughts on the game so far?
This has been a very enjoyable game to watch. Both of these teams have a lot of heart, and you can see it by the way that they play, by the way that we've spoken to them as well.
And a big shot straight off the bat. A lot of pace in this one, and that was beautiful. And we've seen this Heat Haze team open up the deep game once they went 5 or 6 points behind, and I wish they did it earlier because it's working. Hiroshi is an animal going deep. Has a lot of pace, height as well, and they can pin those flick hooks.
Yes, they definitely utilized the downwind, or at least like crosswind. It's difficult to tell from where we're sitting. But what they have from a very basic horizontal stack, and what you would usually expect maybe one of the wider cutters to cut deep for, they've used one of the center cutters where the disc is in the middle. You get a center cutter, and it's not a disc you would expect to go up. So Heat Haze have done incredibly well on throwing off their opposition, and I want to see it more.
Yeah, I think that's what you call a thrower's wind, what we see today. It's a slight wind, and you can use the edge of this to cut into it and kind of guide it to where you want it to go. And it's clear the Heat Haze players have those throwing capabilities and the receivers to go deep, so I think they should do that more. It's the question if they can get any break back. Yeah, not one break from this Heat Haze team so far, which is crazy when you think about it, and haven't really looked like anyone either. McDonald throwing out the space. And again, this man can do, no! Just as I said, curse of the commentator, a bit too casual there. Jaime Perez, the man living in Atlanta, and yeah, he was very casual there. Oh no, looking at their first break now. Nakazawa from Tokyo. Heat Haze players mostly coming from Osaka.
The Heat Haze are wasting absolutely no time in getting this O started. We do have a foul call on the marks. The disc is going to come back in on stalling 1, so 0.
I think that was a clever tactic by Kobayashi. I think he drew that foul. I think he knew if he stepped out with that tight mark that he would foul him. He just wanted to reset the stall count, and that's very much in the rules. You know, if you have a tight mark like that, smart players will bait the foul, and he did so to reset the stall count. And now goes up the line and starts moving it. Some more classic Japanese play here. And usually the Heat Haze have had such exceptional end zone offense, and now he calls a timeout, which is the right decision to make. You know, this is their first real opportunity of getting a break. About 20 minutes or so left in the game, and if they are going to rally to come back, they got to do it now.
Yeah, definitely. And just going back on that foul call, there have been changes to the rules in the past few years where you don't necessarily have to call a foul if there's been some sort of contact established on a mark or even within the stack. You can just call contact, and then it's respected. There is no stoppage at all, but if it's called again, then it can lead to a violation call, which is a stoppage in itself. So the moment at 13-8, Heat Haze have got a lot to work for. What do you think they'll want to do at this point, Liam?
Yeah, Heat Haze, well, first of all, they need to score this break, and we see the Venezuelan players on the sideline cheering them on. Always a dancing, singing nation, as are most of the South American teams, and I think they give Colombia Revolution a run for their money. Trying to keep this dancing PG-13 here. Save it for the pool party on Saturday. But yeah, as we said at the start of the game, this Venezuela team want to focus on the good things of the nation, their culture, their style of play, the happiness. We see a big break across the field, and looks like it's going to be, oh, no call. So Heat Haze will have to wait a little longer for their first break.
Yeah, this Heat Haze D-line struggling to convert any sort of break whatsoever. The disc is being moved.
Oh, I think it was a stall out called. That would be the only real explanation for this disc coming in where it is.
I was going to say, this definitely is not USAU.
Yeah, they would have had to actually put the disc down on the ground and everyone go to where they originally were, but sure, look. Oh, again, that no look inside backhand that he's clearly something he's tailored before, and another spicy pass back to the end zone. This one's going to be a very difficult catch. Oh, and has to go with the one-handed hammer catch. Fingers on top, thumb underneath, which is a difficult one to do.
Probably could have gone with two hands, but maybe heat of the moment, him thinking, yes, finally another score. We're nearly at the end. Damn it.
Yeah, they're catching not quite as good as the dancing of their supporters. That's their second time they've dropped one in the end zone at this point.
There's some discussion going on. Again, lack of hand signals is not making it very clear for us or anyone else to establish what is actually happening.
Yeah, they seem to know what's going on in the field. Definitely no arguments, but not really relaying the information to the sideline. Oh, and now we see this 1-6 Japanese El Clasico offense. And a lot of pressure coming for Warao, and that's what they've done that Heat Haze hasn't, is when they turn over, they fight tooth and nail to get it back. Now the inside break is on. Matsumura. Kobayashi, who has a big arm, instead shoots it under to Iyama. Kobayashi stretching the defense now. There's a lot of space, but some strange movement behind the disc. Can they get their first break? And it looks like they have, and a brilliant step around backhand throw. Kobayashi earns them the first break.
That's definitely something to get a team fired up. You get your first break, you're climbing ever closer to the scoreline that you need to be at, that you feel like you deserve to be at. Because whilst it's a very, very close game, you can tell that the Warao offense is significantly stronger in comparison to the Heat Haze offense, especially when it comes to their defensive lines. And Warao now taking quite a while to get to the line.
Yeah, it's the first time the O-line have had to make that walk back across the field. And I think even if Heat Haze don't win this game, you want to at least get one break. They're playing quite strict O and D lines, and if you're a D line captain and you have to come back and go, we did not get one break that game, that can be heart-wrenching at times, but they've earned that one. It was coming, and you know, Warao had 2 opportunities to just catch this in the end zone, but unfortunately not able to do it.
We've got quite a few Venezuelan supporters still dancing in the stands. We've got some Venezuelan flags. Very proud of their team, very proud of their country. It looks to be a timeout call.
And if Warao can win this game, it would be a big upset. They come in as the bottom seed in the group. As we see, a lot of McDonald there has played sensational this game. His hair matching his talent.
What would that be?
Luscious, sensational. And the Warao performance matched by their sideline dancing. I think Revolution have some competition. I wouldn't mind to see a little dance-off in halftime one of the finals.
That is something I would love to see. We got to see Revolution bring on a few teams that learnt their warm-up dance at the opening ceremony just before the game. It's definitely something to watch back. Gets people moving, gets people excited, get them happy.
Yeah, I should check out their dance on Facebook. If you look at Revolution Ultimate, check out Hips Don't Lie. They have some set dance moves you can all dance along to at home. And you can also check out River Dance if you want to dance along with me in the pub come the weekend.
I would be surprised if you could river dance.
We actually learn all in school. It's how we get around mostly in Ireland. If I want to go down to the shops, you know, on my way to do a driving lesson or funeral, I usually river dance my way there.
Funeral?
Yeah, we river dance on the great. I'm going to stop now.
Yeah, please do. I was going to say, Kaylee's sound more Irish than river dancing at a funeral.
Well, I can tell you what, an Irish wake is something to behold. It's very much a celebration of people's lives as we celebrate a fantastic game here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Warao looking to get within game point. 13-9 the scoreline. Oh, and that a hopeful throw out in the space, which they've come down with most. Nice fake. Sun still blazing here as we head into the evening time. Rosario. Rosario again. That is the 2 Rosario connections there. Number 51, Javier Rosario, and 35, Jesus Rosario. Romero now, who puts one into space to McDonald, and that's just something Heat Haze don't have an answer for. And I'm getting a little tired of saying his name, to be honest, because he is on every second or third disc.
It shows you how much the team trusts him. Although it would be great to see a little bit more variation in terms of the stats, because as it stands, he's been getting the vast majority of the stats in comparison to the rest of his players. So he's had 4 assists and 4 goals, which is impressive.
Yeah, but just a lot more than just a one-man show. We've seen some great performances across the board. Matthew Smith, 1 assist, 3 goals. We've also seen Aponte with a goal and assist to his name. Luis Paz, goal and assist. So they've been using their whole roster, and I think it's more the energy this Venezuelan side bring. They are so intense in defense, and there's 7 players working hard to get every single turnover.
Have there been any other players from any team really that have impressed you at this tournament so far, that you can think of at least?
I saw some of the Bologna game as they played Oso earlier. Tim Sang is on fire, a player that represented Team Canada at the World Games. He's really impressed me. Holger Beutemüller, who I think is the stats leader in the men's division for Bad Skid. Just had his second child, wasn't at a lot of warm-up tournaments, but is definitely on fire here. And as we look, Heat Haze trying to keep this game going as Warao on game point. And again, looks like a contact. Fukuyama has been quite theatrical in all his calls. He's had a few where he's pointed his toe, pointed his hand. I think he's going to live through that one.
Well, it's beneficial if you might not be able to speak much English, which is probably the language that they're trying to communicate in, then being able to utilize hand signals or at least showing some sort of idea of what's happening, then it's better than not saying anything at all.
And stopping that inside break, great defense. Edgar Garces. If they can get this one in, they will win the game. Good play from the whole roster. Mujica getting on the disc. Now Garces again. Chestnuts. Darren Ruse. Oh, and getting high in the stall count, gets the reset. And now we see Mujica again, wants to get the goal and forces that one. Looks like a foul call, suggesting he pushed him in the back and prevented him cutting into the space he wanted to. Not sure if the throw was as accurate as it could have been.
From here, it looked fairly incidental. The Japanese defender was potentially moving into the same space as the Venezuelan cutter was moving to, which would be a legitimate foul. Even incidental contact is a foul in this sport, which is non-contact. Like, you shouldn't be hitting each other. Not that you would.
Yeah, it looked like he'd taken up a good position. Alacon, Nicholas, number 98. Trying to prevent the Japanese defender from getting around them. And this discussion going on for quite a while. And again, we see the 2 translators involved, so always taking a little longer than usual. And in our far left, we see that the Pelt Relampagos game is over. I'm obviously very interested to see what the result in that game was. Pelt definitely needed to win to stay alive. It was probably a game to stay in the bracket. Could also be a 3-way tie. So trying to gauge from the body language whether it was a good or bad result.
Yeah, Liam sitting here with his Pelt jersey on, rocking the snail. If anyone's seen, what's it called? I've forgotten, my brain's gone blank.
Are you talking about the rubber bandits?
That's
chaps?
it, rubber bandits. Oh,
Yeah,
they're hilarious.
The comedians out of Limerick, yeah, that's definitely where the inspiration comes from, the jerseys. But we'll focus on now. Edgar Mujica is going to get a second shot at this. This could be a game-winning point if they can knock it in. Goes for the reset this time. Pick called in a stack. Garces.
Yeah, the previous foul call was contested. We heard the 3 whistles, meaning that the time for the discussion was up. So they had to reach some sort of conclusion, which was the contest.
Good handler movement, gets free up the line. Had an option there. Again, throws into traffic and looks like they have won this game. Arlecon getting the goal this time, no foul call. And a convincing win for Warao, 15-9. Gigi, final thoughts?
That's definitely something to get their spirits up. A lot of these games are going to be very tricky, even in the pool stages. So to be able to get as many wins on the board as possible is fantastic. And this team, which has had, this Venezuelan team, which has had some troubles in maintaining their entrance spot for WUCC, providing a great boundary and a great baseline for Venezuelan Ultimates. But Heat Haze were down but not out. They definitely wanted to show that, and the scoreline does reflect it towards the end.
And we'll be seeing lots of Matthew Rowan McDonald in this highlights recap. Great display of Venezuelan Ultimate. I'm sure lots of players around the world tuning in for this great showdown. Thank you for tuning in. I've been Liam Grant, joined by Gigi Morrison. Come back tomorrow for some great Ultimate here in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.